lions before lambs? I must be watching the wrong sheep movie. So, would there have been an uproar if this text said Quantico, Virginia, and we could have just figured out the woods part for ourselves? Look, I know this is the official title of the movie, but everybody calls this Silence of the Lambs. Drop the movie. You're sounding more like the Transformers the movie. I'm sure this training sequence is here to illustrate Clarice Starling's tenacity and stuff, but it has jack to do with the movie. Does anything related to cracking the Buffalo Bill case have to do with her physical fitness? Is there a deleted scene where Lecter challenges her to a 40-yard dash?
Crawford wants to see you in his office.
Thank you, sir.
Weird. Is she doing the obstacle course in reverse to get back to Crawford's office? God damn, that is commitment. I think I'm in love. Why are all these words written on cheap boards, but the pride one appears to have been burned into a regular wooden block? Also, hurt, agony, pain, and love it? Why the f is there a hyphen there? Or is this a practical joke by the IT department? I think I get it. Is Crawford's office really past all this bullshit, or is Clarice taking the long expositional route to get to him? Also, this motherfucker looks directly at the camera in this scene. Come on, man, you're in one of the greatest movies ever made. Act like you've been there before.
You looking for Crawford?
Yes, sir.
Well, he should be back in a couple minutes.
Why the is it so urgent for that one dude to track down Clarice in the middle of her obstacle course if he's not even in his office right now? Why couldn't she finish it, take a shower, then get her assignment? This headline is about current serial killer Buffalo Bill, but the copy is all about the trial of Hannibal Lecter, who currently has nothing to do with the Buffalo Bill case. Maybe the National Inquisitor should be spending more time proofreading and less time on features like the new cologne that makes men so goddamn irresistible. Also, this looks like the exact same copy as the one that Starling later reads on the microfiche at the Academy. So I guess I'm also sinning the Inquisitor for plagiarizing an article from the Washington Dispatch.
Jobs come up and I thought about you. Not a job, really, more of an interesting errand.
And well, I like pulling people out of their exercises and giving them the news while they're super sweaty and tired. I sort of make a game out of it.
Let's see, double major, psych and criminology, graduated magna.
Nothing you or I need to rehash, but really, it'll be great for anyone who might be listening.
Why the urgency? Is there some connection between him and Buffalo Bill, maybe?
I wish there were. I want your full attention, Starling.
Movie has its chance to answer why this was so urgent and goddamn fails.
Be very careful with Hannibal Lecter.
Crawford goes on to name a laundry list of do's and don'ts for Starling, but it's only after she's been dismissed and asks a follow-up question. I know there's a little sleight of hand happening here by Jack, but was he seriously going to let her walk off without these caveats if she hadn't dawdled?
His mouthpiece and restraints were removed for an EKG. When the nurse leaned over him, he did this to her.
And I keep this picture in my pocket for a dramatic reveal just before I walk someone into the restricted area. Showing this to you back in my office? Well, that would just be silly.
Hi, I'm Barney.
Barney politely waits for the camera, Clarice, to solely focus on his face before actually bothering to introduce himself. This is certainly a scary murderer's row that she's walking down, but what the f are these stairs at the end of the hallway? If the one end of the hallway requires going through 2 gates to even get inside, then why is all this left wide open? And where does it lead? And why couldn't they save time and just have Clarice come down those stairs right by Lecter's cell?
Do you know why he's called Buffalo Bill? Please tell me. The newspapers won't say.
They won't? Isn't the etiology of this salacious name exactly what a newspaper would detail? And even if they didn't, someone with the intellect of Lecter could easily be able to piece that together, right? Barney is shown to be a pretty astute and compassionate guard, right? And he reiterated that Clarice isn't supposed to go near the glass. So why isn't he at least saying something right about now?
And that accent you've tried so desperately to shed, pure West Virginia.
Wait, Starling's current accent is what happened when she tried to shed it? Holy she must have sounded like Boomhauer before all that work.
All those tedious, sticky fumblings in the backseats of cars while you could only dream of getting out, getting anywhere, getting all the way to the FBI.
Sometimes words don't do a scene justice, and I'm just going to remove 5 sins for this incredible combination of performances, music, camera work, editing, and whatever else that makes this scene badass and iconic.
A census taker once tried to test me. I ate his liver with some fava beans and a nice Chianti.
Man, I have a feeling Lecter would have been instantly deported from Italy if they caught him pronouncing Chianti this way. Also, what a weird way to refer to a census taker, since the census itself is obviously not a test. Did he challenge Hannibal to battle of wits or something? Did it involve iocane powder and 2 glasses of wine? I'm just saying, sure, iconic line and all, but seems like there's a lot more sizzle than steak in this dialogue. We wouldn't dare show you what happens to Clarice next, because gross scene is gross. But Miggs, who is next door, is about to fling semen at Clarice through the bars in his cell with a devastating accuracy that porn stars can't even muster.
Agent Starling!
How the f could Lecter see what happened that far down the hall?
Go seek out Miss Moffat, an old patient of mine.
So wait, when Miggs disrespected Clarice earlier, Lecter decided not to give any information. Now that he's done it again, in one of the most heinous ways possible, Lecter feels obligated to give her something? Wow, how convenient. Also, where the is Barney?
Hey, Clarice.
Don't get too excited, kid. There's a good chance he's actually an alien, currently chilling in the Vega system. The Hannibal Lecter article is about Hannibal Lecter, which is great. The articles to the left and right of that article are those classic 1990s bullshit filler articles with non-specific information about taxes and how governments are doing stuff and people are something. I wonder if these very articles with these exact words have been in literally hundreds of movies. A documentary about this would only interest me and would be awesome. The judge in the Hannibal Lecter case was called Judge Detox. I'm sure the prosecutor was Alexander Rehab.
They found him at bed check. He'd swallowed his own tongue.
Not a thing.
I thought the yourself reference was too hokey for Lecter, so I figured he's from Baltimore, and I looked in the phone book, and there's a yourself storage facility.
Man, what a gigantic leap to come to that conclusion just because of a hokey reference. Also, it turns out the storage facility was rented by a Moffat. And the rent was paid in advance. And this is an actionable clue regarding one of the biggest criminals in history. But Crawford sends a cadet to check it out on her own? Why is Yore in quotes? Was this storage facility started by someone with the last name of Yore? I just felt 500 Abbott and Costello routines simultaneously created when that information got out. I guess considering the storage facility's clever name, Clarice is jacking yourself off.
I did not kill him, I assure you, merely tucked him away very much as I found him after he'd missed 3 appointments.
Yes, I went and made a house call and found him dead, and then decided to rent a storage unit for 10 years and put him inside there. You never know when you might need a head in a jar. Those lines at Disneyland are long, and sometimes you can grease the ride operator with some free stuff.
Garden variety manic depressive. No, just think of him as a kind of experiment. A fledgling killer's first effort at transformation.
So Buffalo Bill killed Hannibal's patient, and this was all before he went to jail, which we know was at least 10 years ago. How did all this happen so perfectly? God damn it, I know Lecter is brilliant, but there are flourishes here that are just as unnecessary as a car jumping out of a skyscraper in a Fast and Furious movie.
Thank you, Barney.
Fife? Catherine sings Tom Petty's American Girl, and I'm beginning to believe that Tom Petty is the artist filmmakers go to when they need a really super obvious song to play about someone's character, like when Tom Cruise is singing Free Fallin' in Jerry Maguire. Unnecessary night vision goggles are unnecessary, but way to plant that seed when they become really important later. Also, I'm no senator's kid expert, but it seems kind of weird she lives alone in this rustic apartment complex when her mom is that much of a big deal. I know he's just stealing from the Ted Bundy playbook here, but he gets pretty lucky when Catherine helps him out. Bundy tried this in a place where there were tons of women. He's very specifically targeting this one woman.
Starling! Outside.
Damn, I know they want Starling's help on the case and everything, but they keep interrupting her training. How's she gonna learn how to take a series of punches from much larger men now? Buffalo Bill gets around more than Johnny Cash, man. According to the movie, he's been in Memphis, Tennessee, Elk River, West Virginia, Baltimore, Maryland, Belvedere, Ohio, Chicago, Illinois, and God knows where else. Hell, at this point, Buffalo itself may be the only city he hasn't been to. Apparently, the victim, Frederica Bimmel, lived on 143 Maple and didn't have a social security number. That is some great work by the FBI. It's amazing they even knew her name. We find out later that Crawford was using Starling to get info from Lecter, but he doesn't really need her for this part, right? So is he actually interested in Clarice, as Lecter suggested? If so, it's certainly not even hinted at in the movie itself. I realize this small town might not have a coroner's office, but why would they bring the body to a funeral home? Why wouldn't this body go to the nearest coroner's office? Crashing a funeral.
It was just smoke, Starling. I had to get rid of him.
Matters, Mr. Crawford. Cops look at you to see how to act. Matters.
This movie came out all the way back in 1991. One thing we never give this movie credit for is showing a professional woman's perspective and how uncomfortable that can be in a sea of men. Like when she's on the elevator surrounded by a sea of dudes. Or the creepy doctor who tells her how hot she is and all but asks her out on a date. The guy who tells her it's all going to be okay and she'll do fine like she's a child. The dudes who can't help but stare at her and Casey Lemons as they run by. And then, being left by her boss in yet another sea of dudes. The only guy who seems to treat her as an equal is Hannibal Lecter. Let that goddamn sink in. Oh yeah, and we're removing 3 cents here. Jesus Christ, if only they had Google in this movie, it'd be at least 40 minutes shorter. This one shot through James Gumb's basement is not only brilliantly expositional, it gives us a great sense of space that will help contextualize the final act. You know, there's a reason this movie is considered one of the best of all time. But also, I'm wondering how long it took for Buffalo Bill to find a house that had a well in it. We find out later he killed the person who owned the house and took it over himself. But what was that scouting mission like?
Catherine Martin, The 25-year-old daughter of Senator Ruth Martin, listed first as a missing person, is now believed to have been kidnapped by the serial killer known only as Buffalo Bill.
This is Starling's first time hearing this, and it's on the local news? How has she not been briefed on this yet? She's on the investigative team. Also, this seems like a pretty convenient kidnapping for the FBI, because Catherine is a senator's daughter. The interest in catching Buffalo Bill ratchets up to the point that the government is willing to give Hannibal Lecter a better place to live if he can give them information that will save her.
She keeps repeating the name.
And I promise
She sees Catherine as a person and not just an object. It's harder to tear her up.
That might be true, but it has absolutely no bearing on this film whatsoever. This moment plays like a PSA to the audience.
This is the number for the U.S. Attorney's Office. Please, either you discuss this with him or you let me do my job.
Awesome! Boss, power move, go girl! But still, this works.
Quid pro quo. I tell you things, you tell me things.
Official United States diplomacy.
Was it a butterfly?
Yes, a moth. Just like the one we found in Benjamin Raspail's head an hour ago.
Wait, so Buffalo Bill has been putting moths in his victims' throats since the very beginning of his serial killing? I mean, Benjamin was one of his first, right? And he's killed a bunch of people after that, but no one has noticed this until just now. Also, how the did you guys not find the moth in that dude's head earlier? I realized the discovery of the moth in that last victim would lead you to go back and check on another victim, but the only thing left of that dude was a head. There wasn't much to examine. A moth should have been found way before that.
It rubs the lotion on its skin or else it gets the hose again.
Buffalo Bill is one of the most scrupulous serial killers of all time, but to punish his victims while in captivity, he uses, common hose. Movie makes it seem like Hannibal Lecter is somehow going to grab this pen and use it as an escape device later, and I'd love for the movie to explain how he gets it, but this seems like bull. This scene is supposed to be creepy, but they totally copied Steve Buscemi's character from Con Air.
What?
Did you breastfeed her?
Now, wait a minute.
Yes, I did.
Toughened your nipples, didn't it?
I know Lecter is f***ing around here, but what a childish thing to say. Is this even an insult?
5'10", strongly built, about 180 pounds.
He goes on to say a couple of more general descriptions, but nothing of real consequence. Why would they agree to this transfer before even checking on all this vague? Yes, Lewis Friend is an anagram for iron sulfide, or fool's gold, but Lecter never wrote it down, so how does Starling know that Lewis is spelled this way? It could easily be Lewis, right?
Then something woke you, didn't it? Was it a dream? What was it?
I heard a strange noise.
Sometimes on this job, all you can do is sit back and enjoy the scene. Oh, you try to come up with sins, but all you can think about is, these motherfuckers earned their acting Oscars.
You think if Catherine lives, you won't wake up in the dark ever again?
What? Up until now, Hannibal has been on point with his predictions of Clarice, but this is a big old leap in logic. She's trying to save the girl because she's on the case, man. No need to throw in extra dramatics to what already is a super compelling narrative. Again, if they're worried about sharp, pointy things being an issue, why let Hannibal use a radio? There are all kinds of sharp, pointy things in and on that. I guess I can believe Hannibal getting out of his handcuffs using Chilton's pen that he somehow stole while he was wrapped up in that restraining harness, but I cannot believe he can unlock the handcuffs without his arms moving just a little bit. Even if he's somehow using just his fingers, and he's moving slowly, something would be visibly moving. Hannibal kicks the gate into this cop here, and in the very next action, Hannibal has a clear shot to eating the cop's face. Now either that gate swung back immediately, and I assure you it didn't, or the speed at which Hannibal does this is impossible. Wow, it's almost like there should have been more than two fairly incompetent guards assigned to the most dangerous inmate on the planet.
Call Pembury, ask him to tell. CP, shots fired on 5.
First off, you make a lot of assumptions, mister. You know for a fact those gunshots were on 5? I mean, yeah, I'd assume that as well. But aren't you going to try to call the 2 cops on the 5th floor first? Second, how or why did the officers up there have any guns at all? This mother has a history of extreme violence, and correctional officers rarely, if ever, carry firearms. I mean, that's Hannibal goddamn Lecter.
Look!
She says look, as in, look, I have no idea why we're waiting so long to use the stairs in this building.
What do I say?
It's Jim Pembury, now talk to him, damn it!
It's hilarious how this guy says, it's Jim Pembury, like he's basing it off the notion that it might not be Jim Pembury, a dastardly plot envisioned by Lecter that hasn't even occurred to him yet. Chris Isaac isn't frolicking on the beach with his naked girlfriend in this scene. I'm gonna go ahead and say that if you tear someone's face off... Wait a minute, mandatory clip.
I'd like to take his face off.
When you tear someone's face off, it isn't going to look nearly as good as this, even if you clearly have practice like Hannibal Lecter does. I guess Lecter planned for this blood to start dripping right when he got escorted into the elevator so that it would distract the cops and he could carry out the next phase of his plan. He's a genius, don't you question it.
It's on the roof of the elevator.
Gotta say, this is still way too close to the elevator to even whisper this. There's seriously not a more direct way to contact Clarice than calling the dorm hallway phone. This whole movie has been people showing up in person to ask for her.
Clarice, doesn't this random scattering of sight seem desperately random?
There's only one case file on Buffalo Bill, right? So Clarice has been hoarding it this whole time? Is there seriously no one else working on this case right now? Clarice may never have looked in this other room if it wasn't for this meowing cat. Meow ex machina. Follow me, Clarice, to understanding! Look, I know Starling is a good detective and she has the profile on Gumb, but she spends like 7 minutes investigating this place and somehow puts all this together. Weirdly, this is my daily affirmation too. Jesus, this is more of an overreaction by Chicago cops than the ends of the Blues Brothers and the Fugitive combined.
Hey, you don't know what pain is!
You dude, I sent Pete's Dragon once. I don't know if this is the movie that started it, but we're giving a sin to the whole cops raid a place, and it seems like the person they're looking for is there, but is actually at a completely different place scene that probably inspired movies like Speed, Seven, and Mission Impossible Rogue Nation to do the same. I know there's probably some movie from 1920 German cinema that did it first, but whatever. This guy looks back for Jack to give him a signal, and boy, does Jack ever give him a signal. But apparently it's not to tear the door down, it's to ring the doorbell again. Gotta say, I'm a little surprised Bill decides to answer the door, and I'm a little surprised that Clarice has rung the bell this many times when the person might not even be at home. She doesn't think she's found the killer's house. She thinks she's about to talk to some sweet old lady.
There's no one here, Jack. Clarice.
Okay, so we know Clarice is in danger, but how does Jack know she's in danger? Remember, when they last talked, all he said was,
I need you to link him to the Bimmel girl before he's indicted. See what you can dredge up in Belvedere.
All she does is say yes to that, but nothing about visiting an address. Gumb could be literally anywhere. His kill network is like 1,000 miles in diameter. Notice the butterfly, notice the butterfly, notice the butterfly! This moth landing on all the sewing thread is about as on the nose as Buffalo Bill's TV just happening to be on, playing a snuff film that he made of one of his victims. I know a guy who hates Jodie Foster, like the way the rest of the world hates Andie MacDowell, and I've never understood it because she's great, especially when she's not vain about making a perfectly appropriate weird face for an honest performance. So while I say Dan, the guy that hates Jodie Foster, I have to give the movie a sin for making me think about it.
FBI! You're safe!
I'll let Catherine take this.
Safe! Get me out of here!
It seems like every time in movies when somebody needs to wedge something into a doorknob, there's a perfectly sized tool nearby that does just that. And it's doubtful it would even work, but the movie is saying it does, so... Here's the issue with Gumb around with Clarice right now. He's been shown to be meticulous about his kills, and he knows her ass has a gun, so him not killing her now when he's got the distinct and temporary advantage is not only stupid, it's out of character. Stunning visual, yes. Stupid denouement, absolutely. Geez, this might be the luckiest shot of all time. It's totally dark in here. Even if he's directly behind her, knowing whether you've turned a full 180 would be hard to know.
Clarice M. Starling.
She caught Buffalo Bill on her own, and this is the weak sauce reception she gets for graduating. This auditorium should erupt like the end of Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
Starling.
Well, Clarice, have the lambs stopped screaming?
Villain knows exactly where the protagonist is and how to reach her in a public area, even from a broad cliche.
Where are you, Dr. Lecter?
I have no plans to call on you, Clarice.
But the next time we see each other, I'll be Julianne Moore. I think I'm losing my body. Please give me more information.
Dr. Lecter. Dr. Lecter.
No one in this crowded FBI hall hears Clarice loudly talk to the most nefarious criminal on the most wanted list, even when she repeatedly refers to him by name.
It's what's for dinner.
You look deep within yourself, Clarice Starling. Go seek out Miss Moffat, an old patient of mine.
My reasons are my own.
Primary sensory intake that makes your dream live is seeing. Reflections, mirrors, images.
Starling, we wouldn't have found him without you.
Now, if that bastard so much as twitches, I'm gonna blow him right to Mars.
Clear! Clear!
There's no one here, Jack.
Hi, Bill.
Your bleeding has stopped.
How did you? It's nothing.
'Tis but a scratch. Her body was the only one he took the trouble to weight down.
Oh, this is nothing! You could have been with us 5-6 months ago! Hey! guilt! You talk about guilt!
Good evening, Clarice.
It's good to see you again.
Seal off a 10-block radius. Give me the SWAT team and an ambulance double quick.
Everyone!
Lecter? I'm supposed to find a charity and throw some of the company's money at it. They all seem the same to me, so what's the difference?